Hey guys, welcome back to the Crypto Coffee channel. In this video, we're going to talk about why HEX is pre-viral and why the opportunity is still really high, in my opinion, to get into HEX. It's really never been a better time. There's a lot going on. You might have already heard about Pulse Chain. If you haven't, check out the previous videos. But in this video, we're going to talk about the future and why I'm so bullish. Really just the bull case for HEX, because that's all I can really see is pure opportunity. And right now, we're in a phase that is termed pre-viral. This was Richard Hart coined this term. It's not viral yet, which means growth is still linear, right? Growth is still linear in terms of user base, and it's not exponential yet. So stick around if you want to hear why I think that HEX is going to go absolutely astronomical in the next coming years, right? Not tomorrow, not next week, not even next month, but in 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years time. I'm going to explain all about why I think HEX can really make it to basically dominate the cryptocurrency market. So hear me out from the bull perspective. This is also going to be about innovation cycles and market adoption as it pertains to any technology. Any innovation, any new app, the VCR, Blu-ray disc, Uber, Netflix, Microsoft, Apple, all of these technologies kind of go through an adoption life cycle and an innovation life cycle. So let's get right into it. Like I said, guys, opportunity is everywhere. And if you look at this graph on the right-hand side, we talk about the S-curve of adoption, right? So over time, the target market gets penetrated in what's called an S-curve. It doesn't really look like an S. It's kind of like a slanty hockey stick with that tapers off at the end. But in product, we call it the S-curve. And right now, you'll see that little yellow hexagonal dot right there. That's the early adopters, which is right where I believe we are. In fact, we might even be in the innovator stage where there's only 2.5% or less of the target market that's been penetrated. In fact, I think it's actually more likely. I'm being generous by putting us at the early adopter phase. I think we'll get to the early adopter phase when Pulse Chain launches and we can allow the entire world to onboard seamlessly with zero fees. But the fees are really the issue that's keeping crypto from massive adoption, fees and user experience. And we're going to have both because Pulse Chain is going to unlock not only really low fees, but a great user experience with the Staker app, which I still believe will be the breakthrough watershed app for the crypto space in general, for anyone that wants to make interest trustlessly without a middleman, without corruption and all the things that crypto was invented to get rid of. So then you see as we go up the exponential curve, you get the early majority, the late majority, and finally the laggards, which are just, the saltiest of all the haters. When they can't even deny it anymore, that's when you kind of taper off, and that's when HEX becomes a stable store of value. Now, mind you, even at the top of this S-curve, I still believe HEX will always be a good investment because, let's say interest rates drop to about, 15 to 20% APY for an average length stake. Maybe that's 5 years from now, maybe that's 7 years from now, whatever. But as we know, the more people that stake, the lower the interest rate goes down, and that's to accommodate for the massive amount of people staking. It's proportional to the amount of people staking. So less people staking in HEX, higher APY to incentivize more people to get in. More people staking, lower APY. And it's a price positive feedback loop, like I've explained in previous videos. But even when, let's say HEX stabilizes at $15, $20 one day, why wouldn't you want to get 20% or even 15% APY on your money? Where else can you even get that in the traditional system at all? Even a lot of cryptocurrencies, they're not offering rates that high. And not to mention, you can do this all trustlessly without handing your private keys over to a central third party where they can lose them, they can get hacked, stolen, they can act unjustly. They can just straight up steal all your money, like we see time and time again when people give their money to exchanges, centralized exchanges, and people just run off with their keys, run off with their money, and leaves millions of people wrecked. So my point is, even when HEX is a mature, stable store of value, I think that'll actually be a good thing because even the laggards will have a chance at putting their money in something that generates stable APY year over year. Now let's talk about what I mean by opportunity is everywhere, right? There's a list of things that are bullish that haven't happened yet, but that can easily happen at the drop of a hat. And it's really just going to take time and energy and persistence. And obviously, we're the HEX community. We are the most persistent community in crypto. We're not going anywhere. And we have something to prove, right? We've got all these haters out here talking crap, hating on us because they wanted HEX to be a scam, because maybe it uses marketing tactics they didn't like, or maybe we talk about the price too much, even though that's all people really care about in crypto, and a lot of people aren't being honest with themselves. We're a persistent bunch, and we are great at marketing. We're great at promoting our coin because we love it, and we know we can get behind it because it's secure, audited 3 times, safe. Unlike all this other DeFi out there that's getting rug pulled left and right. So we're going to be persistent, and we're going to make sure a couple of these things happen. What are they? right? Well, the first thing would be obviously a proper CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko listing. If you go to nomics.com, that's Nomics.com. Nomics.com has been a great ally in the journey of HEX. Nomics.com, CoinRanking.com, a lot of other coin ranking sites that aren't the big two, right? But the big two, CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, are deliberately gatekeeping HEX from the top page, meaning they actually remove it from page 1 where it should be, and they manually put it on page 3. And if you know anything about SEO, hardly anybody ever clicks on page 3. Okay, when they go to Google or any kind of search-related site, nobody really looks past page 1, right? And so they're doing this deliberately. They're not only deliberately misprinting the total supply, which you can look up on etherscan.io, which reads data directly from the blockchain. They're counting the total supply as much lower than it really is. Even though, for things like Bitcoin, they'll count Satoshi's coins and they'll count all the potentially lost coins out there. It's estimated that 3 million or more coins are lost. That's fine for them. They're happy to count those in the Bitcoin total supply. But with HEX, for whatever reason, they have a double standard and they are just manually gatekeeping it. And the funny thing is, even with gatekeeping of the total supply, HEX should still be on its own merit. Even with only 10% of the supply, quote unquote, as total supply, it should still be on page 1. It's still a $14 billion cryptocurrency, as opposed to maybe a $50 billion plus cryptocurrency. So it's really funny when you actually look at the numbers CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko are printing. CoinGecko pretends like they don't even know. They just put a little question mark because they're too afraid to address the issue. They really kind of follow what CoinMarketCap does. And CoinMarketCap, I'll post a link to a video in the description below. It's actually been proven to be a very, very corrupt company. It's owned by Binance, who has time and time again kept thousands of users from accessing their funds when they want to. And they've actually advertised false tokens as well, scams, leverage trading platforms that lose people tons of money. So I really don't even recommend going to these places. I think Nomics.com has the power to overturn these two main coin ranking sites. But imagine if they do get listed, right? That's just a waterfall moment where everyone and their mother that's just Googling HEX for the first time, if Nomics or CoinRanking or Coinbase aren't the first places that they go to, if CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko started acting correctly, this would be a really big breakthrough. Next would be real money that flows from the gains that people are experiencing in HEX into real-world advertising. I know I do this sometimes with my spare change, and I've done this with donation money a long time ago in the past, but running advertisements on our own is something that the community can do as a grassroots movement. And imagine as a lot of these Hexicans start becoming very wealthy, like many are already. There's a lot of new millionaires that have been created in HEX, and imagine just scraping off a little bit of that extra money and putting it into a creative new ad campaign. I'm talking about billboards, real world stuff, maybe subway ads down, underground in New York or San Francisco, whatever. Maybe even a direct mail campaign like I saw somebody do just the other day. Somebody's out there mailing nice, sleek, black envelopes with HEX information inside, and just letting people know about the opportunity that's out there at hex.com, the world's first blockchain CD. But imagine if we start doing some more of this creative type stuff, even just, buying some QR code stickers, putting them on bathroom doors and whatnot. There's all kinds of creative things we can do. Somebody bought a truck the other day that has an LCD screen on every side, and it said hex.com on every side, and he just parked it at the Bitcoin Miami 2021 conference, which I thought was amazing. And that kind of stuff, people wouldn't be doing that kind of stuff if they didn't have the gains to pay for it. So people are out here and they've already made a lot of gains, and now they have the ability to scrape off some gains off the top and pump their own bags into real world advertising. And there's something different about real world versus YouTube or Twitter, right? It kind of makes people stop and stare and realize that, oh my God, this thing is in the real world. And, HEX, obviously, we talk about the price. We talk about the experience and safety and things that people really care about. I haven't seen a lot of really good advertising from other cryptocurrencies out there. I think a lot of them miss the mark, thinking that people care about these crazy technical future utopian dreams that they have. And they overshoot it, right? They overshoot a lot of the everyday person who just wants to know, what does this coin do? And with HEX, we have a great narrative. It's the world's first blockchain CD. CDs are worth over $7 trillion in the United States and China alone. It's a market worth more than gold. And to do the blockchain version of it, it's something that's never been done before. So it's staking with penalties. I don't know of any other token that has severe penalties for staking. So it really does make you put your money where your mouth is and create this price positive feedback loop with these inner dynamics. But we don't need to go into that now, right? Just imagine that as a point of opportunity for money flowing into the system in the future. Next, we've heard a lot about Richard Hart and his proposed grayscale competitor. Now, I don't know if it's Richard himself or a team of other individuals working maybe closely with him, maybe not even working at all with him directly, but Grayscale is a company that offers Bitcoin contracts, basically securitized Bitcoin contracts that trade on the traditional financial markets. You can buy what's called GBTC from Grayscale Investment Trust, and they will basically give you a note that says, hey, this note is worth this much Bitcoin because we're backing it with this much Bitcoin. And what Grayscale does is they just buy Bitcoin on the open market in order to issue more of these notes, more of these GBTC securities. So it unlocks a whole new realm of traditional investors. That people that might be too scared to get into crypto or not really understand. I mean, it really is complicated, right? Maybe they just want to buy a couple of GBTC stocks to put in their IRA, and they don't want to buy a ledger and go through Coinbase and MetaMask and all that stuff, right? So Grayscale's been hugely successful in raising the price of not only Bitcoin, but Ethereum, and even coins like Ethereum Classic, you know? So it's been a proven model that works, and in case anybody didn't know, in the works in the future, maybe it's 1 year from now, maybe it's 3 years from now, there's plans of a HEX, basically a HEX version of Grayscale, right? So HEX-backed securities trading on traditional markets, which would thus open the floodgates to all kinds of traditional investors, potentially investors with a lot of money, right? What else could happen in the future, right? Margin trading. Margin trading is something that I never recommend to anybody, but this would give people the ability to take leverage positions on HEX, both long and short. And as we know, when people go heavily short on things, we were able to actually liquidate them pretty hardcore. So margin trading is something that I think will drag a lot more speculation into HEX. And it'll allow people to short HEX, which is obviously a terrible idea to short anything, right? As we've seen with stocks like, AMC and GameStop, these are stocks that have really not much going for them, right? Nobody cared about GameStop before the giant short squeezes. And then Wall Street Bets memed it into existence, and now GameStop is a highly active trading stock. And that's a company with really no more product market fit. I mean, maybe they're moving into some other strategic efforts now, but GameStop, guys, nobody's been going to GameStop since like 2000, right? Everyone streams their games now online. So the only reason to trade GameStop is because people noticed, the everyday person noticed that a lot of people were shorting it, right? And so they said, hey, power in numbers. If we all ape into this, we can squeeze out a lot of these hedge fund capital guys from Melvin Capital, and we can really be the winners here. So power to the people. And that's what I think margin trading would also do for HEX. I mean, if it can do that for GameStop, an old legacy company with no product market fit, imagine what it can do for a real innovative product like HEX. Next, we have a Coinbase and Binance listing. As much as I really don't like Binance and I don't really recommend centralized exchanges at all, obviously, it would attract a lot more attention to have a Coinbase and Binance listing. And I think this will come along in kind of the late majority stage when everybody wants it, right? Coinbase and Binance are going to feel peer pressure to list it. So, we've seen them do this with Dogecoin and even Shiba, right? Why would Coinbase list Shiba coin? Right? What does Shiba coin have to offer? It's a meme coin that was based off the hype from Dogecoin. It's not, I don't want to use the word scam, but it's just borderline. It's a useless token that is really only backed by memes, right? And Coinbase listed it, maybe because there were some ties between the developers and something going on behind the scenes, some back office deals there. I don't want to speculate too much, but we reasonably know with pretty much certainty that if your coin is on a platform with a lot of existing user base, some large fraction of that existing gigantic user base, and Coinbase is number one in the US, I think Binance might be number one in the world, some large portion of that user base will buy the coin just because it's there. And that's kind of the gateway drug. I mean, they'll buy it because it's there, and hopefully they'll research it more, learn about the staking process, learn about the staking ladder system, and become lifetime holders and even promoters. Then we've got Pulse release. Remember, like I already said, this is coming in probably 1 to 2 months. I mean, the sacrifice phase is probably going to come within the next month or so. And the actual launch of the Pulse chain itself might come within 2 months, maybe 3 months if there's delays. But everyone's waiting around for that sacrifice phase, right? And this is going to allow us to go into an alternative ecosystem where there's borderline free and instantaneous transfers. So part of the huge problem with Ethereum is that it costs $10 to send your money somewhere, or maybe $4 or $5 right now, right? But it always fluctuates. It shouldn't cost that much to send money, right? It should be nearly free. And swapping and starting stakes and ending stakes is a completely different story. Those tasks on the Ethereum blockchain are even more expensive, right? Those are even more expensive. So if it costs $20 to end your stake or $50 to end your stake, and your stake was only worth $200, that's pretty outrageous, right? We need to be in an environment that's vertically integrated. We need HEX to be hosted on the Pulse Chain network where we can interact freely and where Staker app can then really reach its full potential. Because imagine when the gates open, the barrier to entry opens for Staker app, nobody will have to pay $4 or $5 activation fee to activate their smart wallet. And Staker really will become, rather than just a visualizer for your existing wallets on MetaMask, it'll become your one-stop shop for all things HEX. Really, the only thing prohibiting that right now are gas fees as far as I'm concerned. Pulse will basically release the Kraken in terms of the Staker app, and Staker will be able to be promoted far and wide to the entire world on the Google Play Store and on the iOS App Store. And we could speculate on other things. What if the origin address funds were to be announced in some kind of foundation wallet, some kind of thing that would really shut the haters up from saying, oh, Richard Hart's just going to dump on your head? A bet that we're all pretty certain of is not going to happen, at least not for a long time, in any way that's going to be drastically detrimental to the price, right? So maybe we get some clarity on the OA funds in the future, and some kind of news like this would really just shut everybody up, right? But again, the opportunity is when a lot of people don't know that the origin address is actually benevolent. A lot of people don't know that Staker app is coming, that margin trading is coming, that HEX securities are coming, right? These are all plans for the future. More advertising is coming. And finally, the icing on the cake. What if a certain somebody uses their giant BTC or Ethereum bags for marketing too? This far, HEX has gotten to this point in the S-curve with very minimal just word of mouth marketing, organic grassroots marketing. So this is really the time where you want to be involved because the opportunity is the highest right here. We haven't even gone viral yet. So again, just to specify pre-viral, what pre-viral looks like over here is this linear growth. If you were to zoom in on this section of the chart from about 0 to maybe 5%, the chart would look pretty linear, right? When you get from the 5% to the maybe 85%, that's really the exponential user base growth. So again, we can also flip this chart kind of on its head a little bit and talk about, the area under this certain curve. This is the adoption lifecycle or the innovation lifecycle of a technology product. The area under the curve can represent the number of new users. Right now, we're definitely in the early market. I'd say most of us are just tech enthusiasts, right? Maybe obviously I'm a visionary. Obviously, I hate calling myself a visionary, right? But tech enthusiast sounds pretty good. And this is stuff, like pre-release planning, people in the Telegram chat that were just around while HEX was being built and designed, right? That was really the early adopters. And I think we might be nearing the end of this innovator phase and maybe crossing into the visionary phase, right? During the visionary phase, we're going to expect things like organic growth via YouTube and still word of mouth, a lot of organic, peer-to-peer advertising. Then we have to cross what's called the chasm. The chasm is the hardest thing to cross, but with enough critical mass and critical user growth, I think that the chasm is very easily going to be crossed with the momentum that we already have going and the plans in the future that I listed in the previous slide. So this is a post-pulse chain world, maybe a world where CMC actually gets their act together and stops manually gatekeeping. Finally, that's when the early majority kind of gets on board. When the conservatives get on board, the doubters, the haters, when those people finally cave and pretend that they liked HEX the whole time, HEX will already be on Coinbase, Binance, Staker app, ranked top of the App Store. And then finally the skeptics or the laggards, the people that miss out, they're going to hear about HEX on CNBC and maybe from Paris Hilton. Maybe she'll be promoting an NFT for HEX or some ridiculous BS. And that's when the people that miss every opportunity are going to finally get in. But like I mentioned, HEX will continue to be a good store of value. So thanks for watching this far. Make sure you stick around because I want to talk about one final topic that's super interesting. I just want to stress this a lot. We've had linear user growth, right? And what do I mean by linear? Well, if you take a snapshot of the early, innovators right here, I know this line is curved, but it almost looks flat. It's much flatter of a curve than, say, the pragmatists' early majority, right? So with linear user growth, we have experienced exponential price growth. I want to say that again. We've had linear user growth in HEX, and at the same time, we've experienced exponential price growth. Now, when HEX goes viral, that means we're going to have exponential user growth. So we're going to have another derivative higher of more exponential price growth in HEX. Does that make sense? So if we were able to achieve this explosive price growth with linear user growth, Again, imagine when we go viral, because viral, to me, the definition is exponential user growth, right? So it's all about new users. Right, look over here. Look on etherscan.com. We've got 219,000 holders, and this number has been going up every day for the past year or so by, about 0.08% every day. It almost looks pretty linear if you look at this little tiny chart here, but we can also scroll down to see some of the analytics. We can see the total unique users, right? There's uniques every day that are pretty constant, right? And they're increasing, right? But that means 500 unique users today, 600, 700 today, and this number is steadily increasing, meaning this represents kind of a linear user growth, right? If we check out Elastic Kibana, we could see 8,284 unique stake addresses today. And I really want to find a way to plot this over time, because just a few months ago, we were at about 6,000. And a few months before that, we were at 5,000. So I would venture to guess that this chart over time looks relatively linear as well. And finally, what's some other cool metrics? I can even show you one kind of behind the scenes thing for Blockfolio. Our Blockfolio signal metrics. This is a snapshot that was taken at the end of May, early June. So it's been a couple of weeks since I took this snapshot. But you can see here, the number of people watching HEX on Blockfolio is over 9,100, because it's obviously this was 2 weeks ago. And that was up 1,300 people from just a month ago. So we're experiencing linear user growth on all fronts, Blockfolio, Etherscan, Elastic Kibana. This is real blockchain data. This is real app usage, right? So imagine if this continues to not only go linear, but to go parabolic, right? And if the user growth goes parabolic, which we'll be able to know through things like Kibana, Etherscan.io, even Blockfolio Signal, along with probably Staker app. I'm sure Staker app has their own, behind the scenes app analytics metrics. When this starts to go parabolic, who knows what can happen to the price, right, guys? Who knows? So where are we in the innovation life cycle? If you think you're too late for HEX, take a step back and realize all the opportunity that's on the table still, all the meat that's left on the bone, and the fact that even if we do reach the top of the S-curve one day, wouldn't you be happy making 15, 20, 25% APY? I know I would. So again, just to reiterate, one of the mantras in HEX is no expectation of profit from the work of others. If you want these things to happen, you go out and you help do them. Just like I'm helping. I'm not being paid for any of this. I'm just a passionate HEX user that wants to see everybody get mad gains, myself included. Right? I think this can really be a life-changing opportunity for the entire world, and really has the power to make millions of people truly wealthy. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe. It helps me help you pump all of our bags, and let's get to that exponential user growth of the innovation lifecycle. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.